A very warm welcome to all of you. And without really taking more time, I think I will. It's a big privilege to be with so many veteran industry people who have done very. And I think what I like about the way this panel has been put together is we are talking about creating markets for weavers, and I think we have here 4 or 5, including me, very diverse formats which have managed to create market for weavers. So I think we all have worked in a very different space to be able to create some dent in the life of the handloom weavers, in a way, both impact as well as business. Just a very brief introduction. And I would ask all of us to probably just say a line about us. So I'm Manish. I've been with the fashion and lifestyle industry for about 30 years, and I straddle corporate from the international brands perspective to the handloom industry. I think what I managed to do, therefore, is bring the best practices from one to the other, and not always from the international to the handloom, because there are so many wonderful things in handloom as well. Very happy to be with Adhyam because it's first of all an impact brand. It was initially a CSR brand, and it has morphed into a social enterprise. It has morphed because it needed to create the full 360-degree impact. So I'll request all of us to probably just do the same so that you all know us better, and then we'll address questions about what we do.
I think you know me by now, so we'll hand it over to Sumita.
Yeah, hi. I'm Shumita, and I've been working with handloom weavers for the past 35 years and helped incubate 11 producer organization of weavers of different kinds, from samitis to producer companies, etc. And currently, I'm full-time occupied with Rangsutra, which is an artisan-owned company started by 1,000 artisans across Western Rajasthan, and several others committed to ensuring sustainable livelihoods for rural artisans. Shiva.
Great. Firstly, thanks to Access for organizing such a wonderful event. It's great to be among such esteemed panel here. I'm Shiva Devireddy. I'm a technologist. That's how I started my career in the Bay Area back in 2000. Worked with Accenture. I was a director of technology innovation at Accenture, and always believed that technology can drive social change. So somehow that has been my mantra for a long time. And while looking at both farmers as well as artisans of this country, I saw the need for a platform which can connect the artisan sector directly with consumers. So this was back in the day, back in 2012. There was no 3G, there was no e-commerce in the way that it is today. So very early days of e-commerce in India. So we started GoCop as the first platform, marketplace platform for weavers and artisans, and the idea is to connect these beautiful products and artisans directly with consumers, at the same time ensuring that the consumer is getting an authentic product at a fair price, both for the artisan and the producer. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, and Access, thank you for having me. I'm Manorath, and I'm representing Okhai, which is a social business and a lifestyle and fashion brand. Okhai started with the vision of putting the power back in the hands of the artisans, where they could sell their products directly to customers and not get stuck in the long line of middlemen and eventually losing out on the profits that they would otherwise make on their own product. That's what it started with. It started with around 500 artisans, and today we work directly with around 35,000 artisans across the country. And we feel very proud to having reached here. Thank you.
Sure. So actually, we were just discussing before, and I think all of you have heard a lot already. So we really have to work harder to now talk about things which are probably different from what have been sort of discussed. So let me start it the other way, and let me start with the brand marketing first. So the first question to you, Manorat. So I have seen Okhai over the past 5-6 years. I've very closely watched it on Instagram as well. And we all started to believe in the brand because of the impact it was creating, and it was more about who was creating the product. And obviously every brand has its trajectory, and today we see or maybe I see less of that and more of the product, and there is a need for that, because you have to make the fashion quotient come in, you have to make the younger audience feel excited about the brand, and it's not always with a story about the creator. So, what is your opinion about this, and how do we therefore maintain this whole balance between impact and business through marketing?
Very good question. So, when Okai started its marketing activities, when it became an e-commerce platform, it was relatively easy because we had social media, and at that time, social media was a level fair ground, and it wanted whatever worked on social media was an honest narrative, and that's exactly what we had. It was a great opportunity for us. We told our stories truthfully. The artisans themselves told their stories truthfully, and it really worked. So at that time, you saw a lot of the stories coming out, us talking about who we are, how we started, how we do what we do. Cut to today, the market has around, like as Nitin mentioned, that we have like over 1 lakh players. There's too much competition, even for a brand like Okai, which is relatively large. The time that you have on anyone's phone or anyone's screen is very, very small for the amount you're paying for it. And as your brand is growing, we've gone from 500 to 35,000. That means that we are not only working with those artisans for one collection, we are continuously working with them. So when we panel someone, we keep working with them, and we have to keep giving work, we have to keep doing collaborative projects with them, and that's the only way you're really going to impact anybody's livelihood. Which means you have that much more product to get to the market, and with that much more product, you need to have a push in marketing which is that much bolder. So in the middle of all that, I do feel like, yes, the stories get lost sometimes a little bit, but that is something that we try not to do. It's organically happening if it is. Okai is about the artisans telling their own story, and it's always been that, and it will always be that. So yeah, so that's what it is. It's not something which is a marketing strategy for us, and we are very, very sure about this, and we call it craft washing, when we see these big fashion, fast fashion brands using artisan pictures and making these massive campaigns with huge budgets. That's something that we don't approve of, and that's something
another
that we
thing
don't.
I would touch upon later.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. So yeah, I struggle with the same thing with Adyam, because we get better engagement on our artisan stories, but I think somewhere we have to balance the act, because eventually what sells, and it's a very touch and feel product. So what you discover of online is finally going to get converted only when you have a good storytelling on the product. So really right. Maybe in the same flow. So Ambuj, I have a question, because I think like two of us are sitting here who are purely from corporate worlds, and then corporate worlds have very different asks from businesses. So I think in my case, I'm thankful that this is also the passion of Mr. Birla, and he keeps it that way. He keeps it in that space of CSR and social impact. What are the things that you have, one or two things which you think you'd like to highlight as to where you have been able to bridge this whole corporate task with the inadequacies, or let's say problems of handloom industry? One we just talked and we heard about was, of course, the production challenge. And any other which you would like to share, so that, because it's great that corporates are coming into this, but the sensitivity is one challenge which has to be faced. But anything that you would like to say?
I think expectations from in the corporate world are different. I mean, you have to produce results. You are responsible for the P&L every month, and especially around the quarter, because we're a listed company. And so the pressures are there. I mean, I'm not saying that it's just the purpose that we are working for, but it's also profits with the purpose. But the good thing is, Titan company, and we are patient. We are very patient, and we have an prioritization matrix which puts the artisans at they prioritize the artisans' welfare, and then it is the franchisees that work with us. We have to make sure that they're profitable,
Sure, yeah, sure. Over to you, Seva. So I think, yeah, you rightly pointed out that you are one of the veterans, and now there are 1,000 other people who have caught on to, and especially after COVID, I think this whole e-commerce wave of bringing handcrafted products to the world has become like almost, you can see it like a grocery store. So I think, yes, you have been a veteran, and you have done it at a time when there was lesser access. And I think, yeah, if you can share, key insights as to what were the challenges, and more importantly, I think I would like to hear from you, what do you still see are the challenges which haven't changed? Because there might have many things which technology might have improvised, but certain things remain the same. So if you can tell us both.
Yeah, sure. So maybe I'll start one step behind. I hope it's okay with all of you. So I think we talked a lot about different aspects with respect to the craft sector since morning. One topic which we haven't spoken much is entrepreneurship since morning. I think one of the key enablers that we have seen, and in fact I was talking to some of the colleagues during lunch, what changed even for GoCoop sometime midway is that we started understanding the potential of entrepreneurs coming from the craft clusters. So historically, GoCoop used to work mainly with cooperatives, so that's why we believed in the collaboration cooperation model. So the idea was to work with mainly self-help groups or cooperatives or producer companies. But we saw a very strong change coming in through what we call as weaver entrepreneurs. People also call them as master weavers, but yeah, I think the more acceptable terminology is weaver entrepreneurs. So what we strongly believe for the sector overall is the need for entrepreneurship. and right at the grassroots level. So someone who is able to understand what the customer wants, someone who is able to innovate on the product, someone who is willing to take a little bit of risk and taking the product to the market. Even to work with a big brand or to work with a very small social enterprise, there is always a risk involved. So I think that level of entrepreneurship at the craft clusters, I think is the key for transforming this sector. That's number one. Now, the same kind of entrepreneurship, I think, is also required at different levels or different parts of the value chain, right? So obviously you have designers, and I think there are some brands which I really admired over the years in the audience, right? So again, at larger producer organizations are required, like Rangsutra. And of course, finally, brands are required to take it to market, platforms are required to take it to market. So different forms of entrepreneurship, I think, is key for making sure that the sector moves forward. I think that's one key perspective that I personally have. And I don't think much has been done to promote grassroots level entrepreneurship in the craft cluster so far. That's the first point. The second thing is obviously technology, and coming to e-commerce is part of technology overall, right? A lot of people look at the challenges in e-commerce. Of course, there have been quite a few challenges. But yeah, I think the way we look at e-commerce is not just about helping them sell a product online. The idea of coming online is to also, in a way, understanding the market, what's happening online. So in the kind of e-commerce enablement trainings that we give, we actually educate artisans on how can you actually see what kind of Maheshwari saris are being sold online. What is the price point, right? So this kind of basic market intelligence can be gathered by just having a mobile phone and spending some time and researching the products which are being sold online. So all the way from market intelligence to then, helping the artisans come online and selling the products online. And then helping them understand, how payments are done, how payments happen within the system, how money comes into their bank account, how should they take care of logistics when the order comes. Because we are a marketplace. We don't hold inventory like many other platforms here. So all the inventory is with the artisan. We enable them. We help them in marketing their products. And then when order comes, the artisan is expected to pack and ship the product. So it's probably an order of magnitude more complicated than inventory-based model. And we have been able to make this work over 70 clusters, and we ship to 18 countries today. So a customer from San Francisco can order a nice coat-part sari from a tribal cluster in Orissa, and it gets shipped from the tribal cluster in Orissa, and the customer in San Francisco will receive the order. So just let that sink in for a second, right? That's the power of technology, right? So it's possible to connect people to that extent using technology. Now, has it been easy? What have been the challenges in this journey? I think more than the brand, the competition is one aspect, but I think adoption was a bigger challenge for us. So it took us a good 5 years to get 100 artisans signed up on our platform, 5 years. So cluster to cluster, and you're trying to teach e-commerce to someone or trying to tell them about e-commerce to someone who has never seen a computer before. Right? पैसा कहाँ पे आएगा? मेरे पास आएगा कि किसी और के account में जाएगा, right? What is the guarantee that I'm going to get the money, right? So I think these are the practical challenges in terms of e-commerce adoption, which was very significant for, I think, the first 5-6 years. Things started changing 2015, 16. I would say more from 2016 onwards. Amazon made a big, I think they came in India in a big way. Flipkart was already growing. So e-commerce started becoming more a common term. I think there are other challenges, including payments, right? Payments are a big challenge. Even today, there are so many credit cards which get, declined. There are payment failure rates are pretty significantly high even today. Challenges in logistics. I don't know if some of you have read the article recently that there's a last mile logistics bubble which is happening in India. So apparently, there's been a lot of investment in creating last mile logistics, but economically, I think that's not it's not very economically feasible. So there is some rollback happening on last mile logistics from many big players, many big logistics aggregators. So last mile logistics is a huge challenge. Even in a cluster like Maheshwar, यहाँ पे शायद महेश्वर से काफ़ी लोग हैं, महेश्वर से स्टॉक निकालना बहुत मुश्किल था हमारे लिए 2017-18 तक. Very difficult. DHL wouldn't operate, any big guy wouldn't operate. So I think these are practical physical challenges on e-commerce even today, right? Beyond marketing and competition. Now coming to marketing and competition, I think I agree both with Manorat as well as with my friend Nitin. Competition is a sign that there is a bigger market, right? There is a lot of opportunity out there. There is growing demand. But at the same time, the way these big marketing platforms work, basically there are two big marketing platforms that all of us are pretty much using, right? Can you guess what are those two big platforms? So Google and Facebook, right? I think these are the two, by and large, the biggest marketing platforms, right? Now, guess how they work? They're working on a bidding system, right? So anybody who invests more and is willing to bid more will obviously get more traffic. So irrespective of the product. So the markets can become, at least these digital platforms can become heavily concentrated towards big players. That's the reality. So smaller social enterprises like us or others, right, I think may find it very difficult to, to compete peer-to-peer on a big platforms, any of these digital platforms. So those are the difficult challenges specific to marketing, but our story, I think if it's convincing, what we are doing is very authentic. I think the customers tend to find us more than we finding the customer sometimes. So being very true to the cause, having a very authentic story, like in our case or some of the other social enterprises here, we talk a lot about the story of the artisan. So if you look at our social media, it will always be the artisan who is represented, who is making the product. 80% of our social media posts are related to the artisan. So when we are transparent about the artisan, we are creating an identity for the artisan, we are actually creating awareness for the craft. I think marketing has not been it's been challenging, but not, I would say we've been able to survive so far, irrespective of the competition.
Sure. So yeah, very, very valid point about how the big ones take the most of the eyeballs, so to say. And yeah, maybe the heart is in the right place or not is not for us to judge. But yes, that is a big misinformation sort of a thing that exists. But yes, I am also very aware of your passion for rural entrepreneurship. And that brings me to Sumita, because she's done absolutely commendable work and closest to the grassroots. So if you can tell us as to what does it take to create a successful producer company. And I loved what you said, that we not necessary, it is not always necessary for us to leave them, because there is a need for us to keep them in the space with some bit of mentorship. And I think what I would also like to hear from you is as to how do you make it work for them as well as for who creates them? Because the benefit has to come to both, because it can never work if it's for just the party which has to benefit only one side. So please, yeah.
Yeah. So let me start with what you said last. In the traditional parlance earlier, whether it was government or NGOs, we looked upon weavers and artisans as beneficiaries. In what we have tried to do, whether it's in all the cooperative societies or the societies that have been set up, and I'm talking about ours, as I said, we work currently with 11 such societies. The whole purpose is to make them owners in the sense, not owners in the business sense, but yes, in the business sense, but also to own it rather than something that has been granted to them as a project for a few years, after which you walk away. And that feeling of ownership कि अपनापन, ये अपना है, ये संस्था अपना है, चाहे वो कंपनी है, चाहे वो ट्रस्ट है, चाहे कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी है, जो भी है, समिति है, अपना है, that mindset change is what really ultimately works. It doesn't come easily, And and in a sense, my earlier work with not-for-profit samitis helped us found Rangsutra, the for-profit company. Today it's a public limited company in which all these, of the 1,000 who set it up, 250 are weavers and the rest are embroidery artisans. Those people, actually, those artisans, put in their money before we had anything else. They were the ones who put in the money because they felt that nahi, isme kuch hai, and our work has some value, and if we can add value through Rangsutra, which is where we come in, is okay, market linkages, because as someone said, we can't expect the weaver working in some remote district of Rajasthan or Kashmir or wherever to understand the market. We can't expect the artisan to understand, design that's needed for the market. But if they believe that what they make and what they do has value, and if this value, we can add more value to it through design and marketing efforts. By the way, we don't have a marketing department in Rangsutra till today. Everyone is a marketing starting from me to the artisan to all our team of 100 plus across the country. So the thing is to be able, as someone said, everyone said earlier, to be able to tell your story powerfully is a marketing tool in itself. But I would go back to what Laila referred in the earlier session, is that where we feel what has worked is investment. And when it comes to weavers and looms, it's in the looms. There are these Tara looms which were developed many years ago by development alternatives. More recently, we've got solar-powered looms developed by Selco with some alterations for plain fabric that can be made. And since we are in Bikaner, there's lots of sun available, so all our units are powered by the sun. So investment in technology, investment in things like, for example, from the artisans, there are some of them, from the weavers, some of them who have a very creative designer, master artisan kind of mindset. So you involve them in product development. They are part of your co-creation product development workshops. There are some who are very good at organizing others. And so you involve them as what we call Vyavasthapaks of their groups of 20-25 people from the artisan families themselves, so they know all that goes into weaving that product, but they are also educated, could be 8th standard, 10th standard. They have leadership skills, so they're able to plan for production, ensure quality right from the yarn that's coming to the fabric that's being woven, to the post processes. Because as someone said earlier, we don't reject anything because you cannot. That's one of the worst things of the B2B businesses, especially export market, and we work in that, export market. We landed up with so much leftovers that we've started a whole new vertical called crafting change, just to upcycle all these, but coming back to weavers specifically, we work both in the B2B and a very small B2C presence. So what we found is in the B2B, where handloom works is not so much in the garment industry as in home furnishings. And that's where we've been able to crack it. We've been able to replace mill fabric with handloom fabric, and not just to compete and become like that, because the handloom is much better. The look and feel of it is much better, but just that it provides employment to so many hundreds of weavers rather than one mill owner getting the thing. So I think I'll stop here and let you ask me.
Yeah. No, so actually, I really enjoyed listening to what you said about how you created the producer company and you identified talents.
Yeah.
And then you said that, okay, this is how I define the roles. So another thing which I grapple with every single day is how do you build companies and culture around craft? Because I think while, the leadership may have a vision, you may all have individual passions, but then when you get to scale, you have to actually bring people who, so for example, there are there are ways where how you need to talk to a weaver. And you have to continue that sensitivity right up to the weaver who's being, who's not just a vendor for you. So therefore, how do you create, and if any of you would like to share as to what is it that you work the most on when you create companies which have to deal with not typical vendor relationships, but also where there is this whole sensitivity of product and the creator is involved. So anything that you would like to share on that? Yeah.
I'll go. So this is a very good question because we've actually had incidents where people have come in several incidents, designers or interns have come in and tried to work on a small project with the group of artisans, and then have come and complained to the management and said, "Meri baat nahi sun raha koi, wo mera sample nahi bana rahe." And then we've had to sit down with them and tell them that, you know what, they are not working for you. This is a collaborative project, and you need to know how to communicate with these people like they are your equals. You cannot be like, this is me and this is them. And the minute that starts happening, everyone is smart enough to recognize that, including the communities that you're working with. The minute you are, you're putting yourself on a higher platform and them on a lower platform or whatever, they can identify it and they will not want to work with you beyond just one project. So we have actually a manual, like a written down document, which is shared with everybody that is a part of the company, including interns. They have to go through it. There are things that you can say, there are things that you cannot say. And obviously beyond that, then it's up to everyone's own judgment on how they want to be in a situation. But that document really contains things like stressing on the fact that every project is a collaborative project. It is not a project that you as a design team is asking a group of sampling artisans to make. You have to do it together. So it has to go both ways, and that's the only way you can actually have better production, because those people know exactly what will happen when that goes into the field and 200 people are going to make the same product in different houses across different villages. So their input is as important as your input. So you might be able to give a good input on color, what's going to be hit and happening the next season, but their input on whether this certain motif can go beyond a certain scale or not, whether it's even possible, is equally important. So I think that's what it is. So that communication, collaborative effort, once you put it down in a document format and ensure that every single team follows it, it goes through all the way to marketing, and automatically everything is authentic and you don't have anything.
Try and get my hands on your manual.
So I'll go in here. I think it comes down to values, some shared values which across the organization we strive, whether it's the team or consultants or even the artisans. And there are just 2 or 3, I think, which first of course is respect. Respect for everyone, the artisan, each other, and the market, the buyer, the customer. And that's something I learned from Amul, which still remains my, go-to vision. Respect for the producer, for the customer, and for each other. Second, the spirit of entrepreneurship, and everyone, you don't need an MBA coming from somewhere to tell you how to start an enterprise. You don't need a big, it can be done at every level. The third one, which is equally important, is what we call innovation and change maker. Anyone, and to bring about social change. This is something, as a social enterprise, we are very clear that we are using the market, we are doing this to the market, but our purpose is social change. And we don't talk about it like that, but the fact that artisans traditionally come from the most socially marginalized sections of society, and they're giving up their work in most parts of the country. So for us, it is always great to see the next generation. And I must say here, women